Hi everybody, it's Professor Horlacher, and this is a video to review some of the things that we talked about on Monday and on Wednesday about the sixth chord. And also at the end of this video, on the third slide, you will find examples that you will use to complete JIT number 23 in the tests and surveys. And I think most of the information in the first two slides will help you make your answers correct or incorrect in slide number 3. So let's think about, in lecture we spent a lot of time making a list of the kinds of things we would want to know when we studied a new harmony. And I hope you have that list available as you review for the final. Here are a couple of the high points. We talked about 6 is quality. In a major key, 6 is minor, and in a minor key, 6 is major. And whenever you use in a minor key, scale degree 6, and build the sixth harmony, you build it over the lowered scale degree 6. There, that's a little bit better. And you always have to remember that that goes down to 5 rather than up to raise 7, so you don't create an augmented second. We also talked about the incredible versatility of 6. And one of the reasons it is so versatile is that it has 1 and 3 in it, as does the tonic. And so it can do a lot of different things. Its common scale degrees 1 and 3 with the tonic make it an incredibly effective bridge on the way from the tonic to the more common predominant harmonies, which are the 2 and the 4. And it can also go directly as a predominant to 5, although this one is less common and harder to do because there are voice leading issues. Remember that when roots are a step apart, parallels are always a problem. So when you go 6 to 5, make sure you haven't written parallel fifths and octaves. We also talked about looking for opportunities to use scale degree 6. And here are some formulas that are worth remembering. One of them is that if your bass line goes 1, 6, 4, and then up to scale degree 5, it's very common to have the use of the sixth chord in there. And what we did in class is we remembered the tune My Country 'Tis of Thee, and here is the bass line for that. 1, 6, 4, 5, and the tune goes. That one's worth remembering. If you see in the soprano a repeated 1, 1 or a repeated 3, 3 or an exchange of 1 and 3, that also is a sign that the harmony 6 is very common. And so if you remember back to My Country 'Tis of Thee, it begins with 2 repeated scale degree 1s, and then the same bass line with 2 scale degree 3s, etc. We're going to talk about this one next, and that is on the next slide. So on the next slide, we have some new uses for this very beautiful chord. Some additional uses, one of which I just alluded to, and that is 6 as a tonic substitute. Because 6 has so much in common with 1. Here is the 6th chord by scale degree, and here is the 1 chord by scale degree. You can use it to substitute for 1. And that happens in 2 ways. Following 5 either as a deceptive cadence, meaning you go 5, 6, and make a stop, or you go 5, 6, and you continue on as 6 is normally used. For example, as a bridge onto another predominant chord, which we reviewed in the previous slide. And so that is a very common use of 6 as a tonic substitute. The other thing worth remembering is that there is a formula that composers absolutely love to use, and this is scale degrees in the bass line. 8-7-6-5. And you can see why that would be a very popular bass line, because it lets your bass line act like a melody. And so when that happens in major, we get a progression that looks like 1, 5, 6, 6, and then 5. And that looks a little odd to us because in every other instance we've agreed that 5, 6 goes back to 1. But in this particular case, we can use the 5, 6 as a passing chord, and the 6 is a tonic substitute that then continues on as a predominant to 5. And we are doing a bunch of examples of that on Wednesday in lecture. The other one, in a minor key, is extraordinarily unusual because the 5 will be of a minor quality. And this is about the only time that we don't raise the leading tone in 5 in a minor key. And that's because when we go 8-7-6-5, these are scale degrees, we don't want an augmented second from 6 down to 5. So we use lowered 7 and lowered 6. And that means that the quality of the 5 harmony will be minor. And so that ends up something like this. Here's the G minor. Normally we're used to hearing 5 is a major chord. But in this case, if I'm going to have a bass line that moves down and not uses an augmented second, there's the lowered 7. My 5 is actually going to be a minor chord before I pass all the way down. One other thing to remember, when 5 goes, whoops, let's fix that. When 5 goes to 6, in order to avoid an augmented second in the one of the voice parts, it's often the case that you have to double the third of the chord. Even though that 6 is a root position triad, it's okay to have 1 root, 2/3, and 1/5. And so I think you'll see one of those examples in slide number 3, which I will go on to right now. Here is slide number 3. And these are 6 progressions. Each one of them is correct or incorrect. And so if you go to tests and surveys and click on JIT 23, you give answer A if you think the example is correct, or answer B if you think the example is incorrect. And I'm just going to play through all 6 of these for you. Some of them have obvious problems, some of them are perfect, and some of them have less obvious problems. So here's number 1. And this is the example. Okay, you can decide if that's correct or incorrect. Here's number 2 in A minor. Okay. All right, and here's a big change of key. This is D minor, and so let's go down to the 6th chord, and here's how I voiced it. And this is number 3. Okay. Good. Going on to number 4 in A minor, and here's the chord I'm starting on, and here's number 4. 2 more to go. Here's a big change of key too. We're in B flat major now. And see what you think of number 5. And finally back to A minor and number 6. Okay, so go do JIT number 23, and I hope that this video has been helpful. See you in class.